What's up everyone? Welcome to my 5th video report. So I'm sure you're all wondering why I haven't been posting weekly. Well, the reason is simple. I can actually get more real estate related work done and produce higher quality content if I make a video every 3 to 4 weeks. So I'll probably call it the Tri-Quad Weekly Report. Nah, just kidding. I'll think of a better name later. Anyway, aside from all that, a lot has happened since the last video. After emailing more and more architecture firms, I still wasn't getting much of a response. So I was getting pretty frustrated. My lack of response prompted me to switch up my strategy. Instead of emailing architects, I started emailing top agents and teams in Beverly Hills. The way I found these top producing agents and teams was I went through Zillow. I went to Zillow and I sorted the price from high to low, and I found some of the names that kept popping up. I copy pasted them onto Google and made sure they had a decent amount of experience in transactions, and then I emailed them. As I said before, I was pretty frustrated from the lack of response, so I channeled that frustration into emailing more. I ended up emailing about 180 people in a matter of just 2 days. I know this sounds pretty wild, but I was pretty driven by the fact that I hadn't got many responses yet. On the third day I spent emailing agents and teams, I had realized that I basically had powered through all the qualified leads, and I only ended up emailing around 40 to 50 people. And I still hadn't gotten much of a response yet, so out of frustration, I switched my tactic again. At first, I thought about a few different ideas, like going office to office and trying to find top agents, going to open houses of top agents, and also cold calling the top agents. Out of all of these, I ended up choosing cold calling, and I'll tell you why here. As for going office to office, I know how bad LA traffic is, and I know most busy agents don't really accept visitors any time of day. Also, I don't exactly have unlimited access to a vehicle at the moment. As for open houses, well, I don't have access to a car on weekends, so that's not going to work. As for the benefits of cold calling, well, I can do it without being in LA traffic, I can do it without a car, and I can do a huge volume of it. And either way, even if it doesn't work out, I can always try the other methods after. So I started cold calling. I started with architecture firms to see if that would get me a better response, but unfortunately it didn't. Most of the architects and architecture firms, even just for an intern, are looking for experience with AutoCAD and other softwares. So I switched my focus back over to agents and teams. Honestly, at the beginning, I sucked. I was terrible at cold calling. I couldn't do a single one right. But I could still see the potential if I could do better. So, in between every 5 to 10 phone calls, I would go through and watch cold calling guides, mainly by Belfort. And to begin with, I started changing my tone of voice and the way I sounded. I then started changing what I was saying. Little by little, I started to get better responses, and a few people even wanted to have another call. The good thing about cold calling is it's pretty much immediate in terms of responses back. You can pretty much tell if something is wrong based on the response of the recipient. Of course, some are just not interested, but some are really nice and tell you sound like a robot. When that happened to me, I realized my script sounded pretty dumb, so I changed it. After tons of trial and error, I finally landed on a script that actually worked. And with that script, I was actually able to land a few different in-person meetings. As of this past week, I stopped cold calling, because I don't really have any more time to meet and follow up with any new people. It would also be a disservice to them and to me, because I'm most likely going to choose from the leads I currently have. I'll link the final script that I used for cold calling in the description. Also, it took about 110 calls, about 20 of which were architecture firms, in order to actually get these in-person meetings. This number may seem low, but remember, the majority of the business in LA is done by just a countable number of agents. Also, I have to consistently follow up with positive responses through email and text, which takes quite a while. On top of this, last week I had to go to the hospital again. It seems like the antibiotic they gave me last time didn't work. So, they gave me a new one, and hopefully this time it works. Other than cold calling, I have been able to read a lot more about architecture and the history of it. I didn't mention this book before, but I have also been reading it whenever I have downtime. It's called 10 Books on Architecture by Vitruvius. To be honest, a lot of the book is very hard to understand due to the old style of lingo. But, from the parts I do understand, I have learned a lot. Aside from all that, I wanted to talk about my plan. As I said in the first video, I want to become a super extra customer-focused knowledgeable agent. So, in order to do that, I have a plan. It is just a plan, and as the old saying goes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. But, here it is. First, I intend to learn and provide value as much as I can with whoever I work with until I'm totally proficient on my own. I don't really care much about compensation, by the way. I'll accept working for free, as long as I can learn. I don't know how long it'll take for me to become proficient in the industry, but my assumption is a couple years. I know real estate is a big industry with a really steep learning curve. So I intend to just keep learning. Once I feel like I'm super proficient, my next aim would be to identify every single negative and time-consuming aspect of the real estate transaction. and then have a solution for it. Basically, I want to create a service model where the customer doesn't even have to lift a finger in order to get a property bought or sold. I may need to have my own brokerage for this, so that's where my business goal comes into play. If I can effectively cut down wasted time and fix all the fixable problems, in theory, I could create a very compelling business. Again, this sounds a lot easier than it's actually going to be, but that's my plan. I'm also planning to play around with the asking percentage as well. For now, I'll do the standard 5 to 6%, but it would be very interesting to see if that could be raised, and with that, the services and benefits also be improved. As for what would be improved in order to justify raising the price, off the top of my head, I'm thinking light remoderation, like painting and staining, a full free inspection to see what may show up during the escrow process, and a market-tested staging setup. This would all be done with data, and the colors would be the ones most widely liked and sought after, based on market testing. Again, this is just an idea, so I don't exactly know the practicality of it, but we'll see. After the coming few weeks, I intend to get a better understanding of the agents I meet, and, based on how it goes, work with one of them. One thing I will say is that most agents are pretty busy, and even when they're actively looking for help, they tend to need to be reminded a lot. I would say on average, I needed to remind each agent about 3 to 4 times before I actually landed an in-person meeting. So if you're trying to work with these agents, make sure to keep a lot of reminders set so you can follow up with them. Anyway, that was that. See you guys next week, and please forget to like and subscribe.